You doing? Happy Friday, everyone. Today is live stream number 71. It's 2 o'clock Eastern. It is the 6th of October 2017. It's Friday, man. We made it. It was a rough week, wasn't it? Just felt like that this week was just brutal somehow. A couple more hours and I'm having a beer. So what did we do this week on the live stream? I had to write it down. I'm literally like, I'm done for the week, man. Monday, we split faces, split body. So if you missed that live stream, we talked about how you can actually go in and use some tools to split your models. Tuesday, we talked about settings and preference. This was one of those things that when I used to work on the shop floor, I knew that I probably should go in and kind of like check all the settings that are inside the software and kind of like understand what they meant. So Tuesday was when we went through that and kind of like did it together, kind of like the ones that I at least think you should know about. Renderings. If you have never played with the Fusion 360 rendering workspace, that is definitely a video you should check out. There's some possibilities there. I don't think it's just to make something pretty if you gotta launch a new product or impress your friends. And yesterday we talked about modeling the way you want. So really just what I tried to do yesterday. And by the way, you should check that video if you haven't seen it, because there's some really good comments going on, some really good debates going on in the comments area below that one. Really what I just tried to do was don't overthink it, man. Start modeling things. Everything don't have to be 100% controlled with a sketch, but there's some good arguments why you should. So, we only got 20 people in here. I'm like a minute in. Today's CAM. You guys are awesome. Today is all about CAM. Well, kind of CAM. It is primarily, because I asked yesterday what you guys wanted to see. This is primarily for you guys who are doing wood routers, Waterjet. We're going to talk about how you lay out sheets inside of Fusion 360. Finally doing this one here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So enough talking. Let's try to be in the software within 2 minutes of starting the live stream. Thank you all you guys who take the time to join the live stream. And of course, if you're watching the recording on YouTube channel, thank you. So this is kind of like what kicked it all off, right? Yesterday, we did this box in my kind of, chop up fashion. But, and that was my argument yesterday was, yes, this is not driven by some big sketch that does all different kinds of things. But you know what? We got the job done. We got to the point that I wanted to get to. So that was my point yesterday, was that the feature tree down here maybe looks a little strange compared to, the right way, but we got there. So we're going to talk about lay things out when we want to break down parts and put it on like a wood router or something like that, or Waterjet, where we're going to cut multiple pieces and how we can deal with that inside of Fusion. I'm going to show you two different ways that I probably, and I don't know, there's probably 8 different ways to do this. And there might, anybody who has any ideas down in the comment area in the live stream, right? As you normally are so good at doing, sharing the knowledge. But this is probably the 2 different ways that I would do it. If you're looking over here on my feature tree, you will see that I have created a folder called, and I did it for router, but that's not, don't take that literally. I created some templates, and I'm going to come into these templates a little bit later. But what you will see is that I kind of like have some different thickness in here. I got inch, I got a half inch, and I got 3/8. And I mean, that brings me to another thing. In the United States, if you go and buy a 1-inch piece of plywood, it's not 1 inch. I don't know why, but that's weird. But so I have kind of like created these templates, and I'm going to come into these templates a little bit later and show you what's in them. They're not that fancy, but there's kind of 2 different ways that I would say that you should decide how you can do this inside of Fusion. What we're talking about is breaking this box down, lay these pieces flat, and machine them on your wood router or your Waterjet or whatever kind of big table, plasma cutter, laser, whatever you kind of got. The question we gotta ask ourselves is, do we want to make it parametric or not parametric? And what I mean about parametric, for you guys who are like, what is that again? What I'm talking about is, do we want to have it, I guess when I'm saying have it in parametric, you gotta decide if you want it inside of the current file that you created up, in this case this box, and if you make an update to the box, that it's all pushed all the way down to your toolpath on the router. That's the one decision. The other option is to say, no, I'm gonna take the box and cut the string from it and machine it as a kind of like an individual, its own little thing over here, and not have that kind of like update. And then you ask me, well, why would I do number 2? If you want to do it parametrically, where if you update the box, then you need to put all your toolpath and all your layout within the same file that you modeled the box in. For some people is fine, but depending on how complex and what exactly you're doing, you might end up with something that you would call a mess. And it really depends on like how complex your part is. So, you know, if you designed this box yourself and you were going to cut this box yourself and you kind of like in control of the whole process, you might want to do it parametrically, where you have everything in the feature tree in here. If you got this part from a customer and you knew that maybe they were going to do updates, you might also still do it. But if you have like this thing that getting all this laid out inside, and it could become very complex, you could have all different kinds of setups, it could become a big project where you maybe rather want to break it down. So I'm going to show you today both ways that I would kind of like, what I would suggest you to consider. You know, ultimately it's still your decision, right? So the first one I'm going to show you, I'm still going to use these templates, but they're not really that crazy helpful for the first example. But that's the parametric one. So let me show you this. Now, the thing I would definitely do was I would create a copy of these templates, so I never mess directly with these templates that I've created. Like I said, I'm going to come back to what's in these templates in just a second. So I'm going to right click and say copy. And I am going to throw that into my customer folder where this box right now resides. So if we go to that folder, customer folder, you will see there's the box, the one we have on the screen. And there we have a 1-inch plywood template. Now what this will do, and I'm going to go with the first one, where what I call parametric, where if we update the box, all the toolpath will update. So I'm going to bring this one in to the box file. So right click and say insert into current design. Now what you will see that's going to happen here is that the template's going to come in here, 1-inch plywood. And I get, of course, the first option where I can move it. Now I'm going to choose not to move this one. Because if I just hit OK to this, you will see that if I turn on the joint, I actually placed the template right on the corner origin of our of the model. So this will also be where my 0, 0 is going to be when I create my CAM, my CAM toolpath. Okay, so I kind of like brought this in, and when I've done that, I'm going to start breaking this box down to lay it out on this sheet. Now, if you remember correctly from yesterday, if you saw yesterday's, I had this McMaster-Carr piano hinge that I modified. I don't need that for this layout, so I'm just going to hide that over here in the tree. Now I'm gonna start breaking this box down. I'm gonna start out by removing the restraint of this box, right? Because right now, when we assembled this box yesterday, we kind of like snapped everything into place. We mated everything. We actually made some joints. We made some rigid groups. I'm gonna have to now, not that I don't want to delete them, but I'm gonna have to suppress some of these and change some things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click on the bottom, because that's the one that was grounded to hold the box in place, and I'm gonna unground it. that actually gives me a feature down here that is ungrounding, but that's fine. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to click on the rigid group and right click, and I'm actually going to suppress it. And I'm going to suppress the other, the already created joints in here. And when I do that, that means that now I can take this box and I can literally spread it out to pieces. What I actually like to do, because it kind of like gives me, like, this is all the stuff I can assemble. And I'm actually going to choose also to capture that position, just so I get that down in the feature tree. So I'm really trying to capture everything I can down in the feature tree. Now I'm ready to start laying this whole thing out on this sheet. And you will see that the sheet I created has kind of like a see-through, so it's kind of like just a little bit easier to see in here. And I'm going to show you a couple of tricks as I'm going along here. So there's two different ways you can move these parts around. You can either right-click and click on the Move Copy tool and use that. And if you have never used that before, then search Livestream's Move Copy, because we've covered that. There's a lot of cool options in here. But I actually think I will use joints for this, just because to me, joints is just very stable. And as soon as you figure out how they work, they're pretty nice. So I'm going to go into this piece here that actually has a little shelf on it, and I'm going to select with the little coin here. And don't forget that if you hold down Control, or if you hold down Command on a Mac, you can kind of like lock that down, so it's a little bit harder, or a little bit easier, sorry, to pick the corner you want. So I'm going to select this corner here, and then I'm going to select down on my stock, I'm going to select that corner, and then of course I can kind of like flip it around, and then I'm going to use these arrows to move this out a little bit, so I have a little bit of clearance. And don't, I'm just going to put 1 inch here. That is probably not the right thing, but you know, just to show kind of like that now I'm kind of like placing it within that sheet. Now when you place your first one, I would actually probably just turn the sheet off for right now, so it's a little bit out of the way when I place the remaining one. So I'm just going to do that in this example here. I actually think I'm going to place all these pieces quick. I'm not going to do that when I show you the second way. Remember, there's two different ways I want to show you to do this. So I'm going to hover over there. Let's do this one. Put that one down next to it. And again, move over, you know, some kind of a distance to place them. So I'm kind of like laying the different pieces out here. I can hit J for joint to activate the next one here. Select this one, and this is maybe where you want to play a little bit around with what is the best way to lay all these parts out without, you know, so you get the least amount of material waste. I'll let you worry about that. J for joint. It's gonna take me 2 seconds here. Place this one to here, maybe up to there. And just drag the arrow and make that 1 inch, right? So I can kind of like lay all these pieces out like this from one another. And again, I'm not really, I mean, you should probably focus a little bit about what pieces you're picking. I'm literally just, right now, I'm just picking whatever I kind of like see. Okay. Move that one down there. And move that one over there, 1 inch, and then we have one more piece. So let's select J. And again, if you hover over, hold down Control or Command on your Mac, you can then snap it into whatever face you want. It's very handy indeed. Okay, so now I got these different pieces laid out like this. So I just have kind of like 1 inch between all of them. I'm going to turn my stock back on so we can kind of like see. And of course, you got to make sure that it all fits in. This is a piece of plywood. In United States, that's 4x8 feet, not 1 inch thick for some weird reason. So now when I've done this, I've kind of like, you'll see how I kind of like captured this feature tree down here. And now I can go into CAM and start programming these parts. So I'll go into CAM, and because of the way I did it here, I have to go through all the different steps. That's one of the things I don't have to do with the second way I'm going to show you. So I'm going to create a setup, what of course is super easy to do inside of Fusion. But see, what I'm going to do in here is I'm actually going to, for stock, I'm going to go into the second tab, if you're fairly new to CAM, and I'm going to select from solid. So now I'm going to select that piece of plywood that I had created in my template, and that will let me use that as stock. So I don't have to worry about defining that. Then I got to set the orientation. I always use select Z and X axis, what you should know if you watch some of the other of my videos, and just select the stock here. Whoops, my 0, 0 corner, wherever you want the 0, 0 corner to be. Okay, so we set this up here. Now we can go in and, for example, use the 2D contour option. So I'm going to go in and select my tool. Again, you should watch the live stream about tool libraries. I'm just going to select one out of the library here, some kind of a end mill or router bit or whatever you use, and then I can go in and select, you know, what I want to machine. So I maybe want to machine, you know, that little shelf there. Let's go ahead here and select some of the different boundaries that is in here, and we can kind of like create those different tool paths. Don't forget that there is tabs in here. So if we turn tabs on, it will actually create, you can control these tabs. So if I hit OK, generate the tool path, and let's simulate that, and let's turn the stock on. And now if we hit play, it's going to machine that little shelf, and you will actually see here, if I hover up, that it leaves these tabs in here to hold on to if you want to have tabs in there. Now these tabs, I think they're fairly meant for like Waterjet and stuff like that, so they're kind of like meant to just, you can break them off later off, and you know, to hold the parts in place whenever you're machining those. So that is one thing that, you know, one way you can do this. So the nice thing about this, going this route, is that if we go back into the model, this is how our model find. I had this joint follow, so like this. This is how our joint, our box now looks, right? But of course, actually at this position, I can go all the way back to our original model yesterday, to the first extrusion, and we can literally go in and edit that, and we can change the height for this. And let's go from 8 till 6 and hit OK, and it actually updated all the parts here. So look at these parts. Let's go in and change it from 6 to 12. You see how the pieces are getting bigger? So now we have this idea that if somebody comes and says, well, we got to change the box, of course, I can drag the timeline down here back to this area here. And now if I hide the stock for a second, we actually have that box, right? So it still works the way we kind of like want it here. I should put some contact points in. Everything works in here the way we would intend it. That's a cute little box when it becomes 6 inches. And, you know, if I go back in, turn our stock on, turn our hinges off, and if I roll all the way back down here, everything will update. And if we go in and look at our CAM toolpath, you will see we get a red warning because we've now just changed the size. Actually, if I click on it, you will see we can still see the blue line from kind of like the cutouts. But if I right click and I say generate toolpath, they will all update to the right size. So this option in here working this way is absolutely favorable if you want to be able to make changes in the model and have everything update all the way. What is the downside with this? Well, the downside with this is that if you have a very complex part you got to lay out, this whole thing could become fairly big. And I also know some people who say that they don't want their CAM within, their main design. They want to kind of like have it broken up. Right now in Fusion, there's not a way to break the link and then still have it connected. I know that they're working on some different ways to kind of like try to achieve that, but they're really trying to stay away from one of the issues there is with other CAD software, where it many times can become a big issue if references are lost. The second way, if this way didn't work for you, the second way that I want to show you is, and I think I'm done showing you this, so I'm just going to close that out, because now I'm going to go the other way in here. So let me just shut this out and don't save it. No, just don't save anything. So let me show you what there is inside of these templates. I really didn't do too much. Inside these templates, if I open this template up, I modeled up the stock, but it's just a simple extrusion with the right thickness. I modeled up 1 inch, though. Like I said, it's not normally 1 inch. But I modeled up this piece. I made sure that my origin was wherever I want the origin. I made sure that, I the 3 different templates you saw, I just changed the thickness in it. And then what I did was I went into the CAM workspace and I created a contour operation where in that I pulled already a tool sitting in there. And I actually changed that tool with the different sizes, because many times when you get different thickness sheets, you want different thickness bits. So this is a 1/2 inch, but I actually changed it. So if you go and look at the 3/8 sheet, you will see there's a different cutter. So what does this let us do? Well, what this let us do is you go the other way. You copy your template into your work folder. Then you insert the box into here, into the current design. And then when you get it in here, I'm just going to say okay to this too. Then the first thing you do is you break that link, because you can't modify when you're bringing a file in like this. It's linked, what means that the original file is sitting out here. What means all my joints and everything is kind of like, well, maybe I could work with it in here. I haven't, well, I don't know. Can I suppress the joints? Oh, maybe I could do that. Oh, now I gotta try this. Okay, let's try this. So maybe I don't have to break the link. Huh. I just love when things like this happens. All right, let's capture the position here, and let's try to see if this works. So I'm gonna go in here and do a joint between. Now we're winging it. It's Friday, man. It's almost beer time, I can tell you that. Yeah, it looks like that maybe we can actually do this. Okay, if I can do that, then let's try this. Now I got all the things out here. So let's capture the position. Let's go in and say make a joint from here to here. And let's flip the direction here. Let's rotate it around. I'm just going to do one here. I should have picked up the others. That's fine. So I'm going to make this one -1 inch and make this one probably 10. Maybe 11. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to do one here. The nice thing about doing this environment this way around is that I'm going to go into the CAM workspace, and I already have an operation in here. So when I go in and I edit this one, because it's kind of like in that template file, all I have to do, you have to have something selected when you create it. So the first thing you just got to do is hit the X to make sure you don't machine all the way around the stock, and then you can go in here and select, the edge you're going to machine around. Hit OK. And we should get our finished toolpath. I had to turn the tabs on in here too. So if we go in and simulate this, we should get that machining out with the tabs on it. So when we're done with this, let's go back into the model here, and let's try to make a change. So I'm going to save this. Now I'm done. I've made my program. And, well, I'm just going to edit CAM, whatever. Click OK. So now this is saved. Now let's open up that original file that we did yesterday. Now I don't know if it is, I think it is the lid that I'm working with here. So let's try to do a design change to this one. So I'm going to hit Q, select this front face, and I'm literally just going to make the lid extremely short. I am going to hit save, just like this. And let's see here, now we didn't bring the link. What's going to happen when we go back into our plywood thing? We get a warning here that there has been an update to the original part, and if this works the right way, when I click on this, we should see this lid. If this is the lid, I think this is the lid. We should see it get a lot. I don't know if this is the lid actually. One of these two is going to get short. Okay, so it did become short, but you saw how everything fell back again, and that is the problem with having these joints in here, is that everything want to go back to the original position. So I guess that I haven't tested this out because I just kind of like decided to go from it, but I guess we could still, if we lay the rest of them out, then test it out. You might get around with it. Now, what I would have done in the beginning when I brought this one in, like in the beginning when I brought it in, was I would have right-clicked on this link and have broken the link. And in that way, I would never get the updates. I've kind of like cut the string, but then it would definitely not fall back to where it was before. So that's kind of like the two ways that you can work with this inside of Fusion 360. So yes, either what I would do is bring the table that you have already laid out. I mean, it took like 2 minutes to lay that block out. Bring that into your current file and work with it in there, and then you definitely get all the updates. If you're doing it the other way, well, if you don't break the link, it looks like there could be something that is jumping around. Though that I think that if we've made it the other blocks, I think that they will update. Another thing I did, because I got an email from one of you guys a few weeks ago that said, why is there no nesting inside of Fusion 360? So nesting would mean that we could have taken this box and we could have told the software, you figure out the best layout for these blocks. And the reason that it's not in Fusion 360 yet is because not enough people have said they want it. So if you go down in the description area, you will find a link to the idea station where you can submit. They're not going to listen to me, right? Like if I tell them, that's like the busboy in a restaurant telling the chef that, they need more nutmeg in the soup or something. But they listen to. If you go into the idea station, put in there that you want a nesting inside the software, and there might even be, I haven't looked, but there might even be a ticket for it in there yet that you can kind of like submit a vote for. The higher those votes are, that's how the software gets in the direction that you want. So definitely make sure that you do that. I think I'm going to end it here. We're just around the 30-minute mark, and it's Friday. It's kind of like time to relax. One other thing that I got a question also a while back. I didn't have time to show it. What if I have some clamps that I want to put on top of my plate to hold my parts down? How do I get the toolpath to avoid those? If you go in and you define this as part of the model, then it will avoid it. So you can draw it up and tell it. If you go in to your setup in CAM, and in the setup down here you define the clamps in here as part of your model, then it will avoid those. I think that was the things that I was planning on showing today when it comes to laying it out. So I hope that this was helpful with these different kind of like sheets. You can lay them out. So I just kind of like drew up a rectangle, extruded in the thickness of my plywood. Went into appearances and I changed it to glass, so it's kind of like a little bit see-through. Created my cam from that, so that was all set up. That's where we're gonna end it, guys. 55 people, really appreciate it. I'm going to do what I normally do, end the broadcast. So if you're watching the recording, thank you so much. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Hope you got some good stuff planned. And I'm going to go into the live stream and say hi to everybody who took the time of that busy day. Till next time, have an awesome, awesome weekend.